thankful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to interact with the participants. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah, yes, it's visible and audible properly.
Okay. Yeah, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So this faculty development program is on integration of alternate energy resources in smart grid. And all you know that we all are talking about smart grid nowadays very commonly. And that smart grid term was coined by US government some time back. But whenever we discuss with the system operators, they always say that grid was always smart. We are making it smarter because the grid operation, the power system operation point of view, there is no major change going to happen. It is only the integration of other technologies, mainly the ICT, information and communication technology, will be very much gel with the power system operation and control. So we need a lot of new data, lot of real-time data, and we need to analyze it. We need to operate the system or response to the system based on those data monitored by different type of devices. And alternate energy sources is the right word because if we say the conventional and non-conventional, these are the terms with respect to the timeline. So that the sources which we are using, we call is conventional, and maybe after a few years, the green energy sources will become conventional, and the fossil fuels will become non-conventional. So alternate energy sources is the right word, and integration of these sources in smart grid is definitely brings lot many new research challenges. And my presentation is mostly focused on today smart hybrid microgrid systems. And here I will focus on three aspects. First is power system scenario, general electric power system. First we will discuss about that. Then we will have a look on the global scenario and Indian power system scenario in detail, right? Especially Indian power system in detail. And then third is related to the hybrid AC/DC microgrid system or technology. We'll discuss in general about it, and then I will focus on the setup that we have developed at IIT Kharagpur and the studies and various kind of applications which we have developed or supposed to develop in future related to this system. So broadly, we will go through these outline. I will be happy if participant or organizer or anyone who is attending this session stop me and ask some question or give your view on whatever I am discussing. So it is not a kind of teaching session, it is a kind of discussion session, and you all must agree, you most of you are the faculty members, so you all are having experience of online teaching at your institute, and you know the constraints with the online teaching also. There are many benefits as well as there are some constraints also. So if you don't get any response from the other side, it looks like I'm talking to a wall which is passive in nature, and there is no question or there is no discussion involved, then it becomes very boring for the speaker. And since I have to talk for 3 hours today, I don't want to make myself bore and you also boring, because if I get bored, my presentation will also become boring. My energy level will go down. And I request all of you to stop me, talk about whatever I am discussing, give your suggestion, any question on that, anywhere in between. Okay. Are you able to hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sir,
Yeah.
one request, you can put your slides in presentation mode. We can have a big picture.
I have put it. Are you not able to see it in presentation mode?
Full screen mode, sir.
Slide mode.
Slide show
I
mode.
have made it in slide mode only. Just a minute.
It can be done in full screen.
It is done or it?
No.
No, sir.
Hello. वो नेट अलाउ होता है, नेट अलाउ होता है। only the website can enable it.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You can see the full screen presentation also?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir. It's visible,
So
sir.
let's move on to generic about electric power system. You maybe know that our electric power system is not a very old system. It is 1.5 century old and the largest enterprise in the world. But unfortunately, it is most polluted also. The 40% carbon emission is contributed by the electric power system globally. And the evolution of power system was initiated by Thomas Alva Edison in 1879. With the nature of the system was DC, and he also invented the lamp, incandescent lamp, as you know. Then it was followed by the transformer and AC machines, and that's how the AC power system was evolved. And it was led by the Westinghouse Electric Company. And slowly, the rivalry between the AC system and DC system started. But later on, the AC power system won the battle, and slowly DC power system gone away. And thereafter, technically and both economically, independent larger and larger AC power system have been evolved. But this electric grid of 20th century has different challenges for different type of requirement. However, it is the greatest enterprise achievement, engineering achievement, but like in developed countries, still they need to improve it because new challenges are coming up. They are also facing the renewable integration issues. They are also facing the electric vehicle challenges, integration challenges. So they have their own set of system, and so the type of challenges are different for them. However, for developing countries like us, we are still expanding. We are still little bit deficit is there or shortage is there. So we are meeting and expanding our system. But the thrust for the transition to the smart grid is based on various reasons. First reason is this, we were talking about alternate energy sources. However, these alternate energy sources are intermittent in nature. They are variable as well as intermittent in nature. And nowadays the customer need, the consumer of electricity has become customer. So they have a choice of quality of power. So there is a difference between consumer and a customer. When you are a consumer, you don't have a choice. But when you become a customer, you get a choice of your own product. Similarly, the peak demand is growing higher and higher. Deregulation or restructuring of electric power system has happened. That has changed the operation significantly. Electric vehicle integration is coming up in a large number. And that's how the traditional electric grid will transform to a smart grid. That's with the additional layer of automation, communication, and IT system. I think all of you agree with these things. I need one clarification from your side, whether you understand this or not, but it is an important aspect. The question is, what is the difference between variability and intermittency? I have mentioned here intermittent energy sources. So what is the difference between variability and intermittency? Anyone? Yes, anyone can respond? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what is the difference between variability and intermittency?
Intermittency is one type of variability only, but in this case, uh, there would be no power, or maybe some.
In this
Yeah.
case means?
In intermittency, we we don't get any power actually, and variability, maybe output, maybe it can vary, the quantum or
Okay.
magnitude.
Like in solar, sir, we
Anybody
have
else?
variability. Like in solar, we have variability over a day, and in at night we don't have any power. So that is intermittent.
So night, when there is no power, it is intermittent. In daytime, when it is fluctuating from minimum to maximum, it is variability. Is it? Anybody else?
So, Mastic, intermittency can mean the extent to which a power source is unintentionally stopped or partially unavailable.
Yeah, so variability is correct, what you have mentioned. It is starting from minimum in the morning.
Variability is refers to solar radiation, I think.
Right.
Uh,
So variability
to
is when you start with the minimum in the morning and then you go to the peak in the noon time, then you decrease. That is called variability because power output is not constant. But intermittency
yes,
is
sure.
actually defined as sudden drop or rise in the output because of the cloudy condition, because of the rainy condition, or any shading may cause, or any rise or drop in the wind speed, also called intermittency. So intermittency is a fluctuation actually, that rise and drop in the output, and variability is the known pattern of the output which we see. Okay. Yeah, this slide is very interesting. Maybe some of you might have seen it, and it has made a interesting comparison between Thomas Alva Edison and Nikola Tesla, and they has an age difference of hardly 11 years. But if you see from their birth to the death, there are a lot of incidents are mentioned for throughout their life. Edison was a hit and trial kind of approach without any technical degree, but Nicholas Tesla was a polytechnic engineer, and his approach was more systematic and technical. And Thomas Alva Edison has not given proper remuneration to Tesla sometime for his work, and that's how the rivalry started between them. And at the end, they both were nominated for Nobel Prize, but they haven't received it because they don't want to share it. And that's how there are a lot of more interesting stories are mentioned here. And recently, last year, one movie has also came in Hollywood, and if you, it is freely available in YouTube. You can watch it and find very more interesting the way it has been presented. So, if you compare the advantage and disadvantage of a larger and larger network, definitely the advantages outweigh the disadvantage, because the type of variation in the power system happens. We need a lot of diversity. To meet that diversity, the integration is very important, whether in terms of generation, whether in terms of load, right? And it increases the reliability also, it increases the transmission bottleneck also. But at the same time, and the disadvantage, one of the major disadvantage is the cascading effect. So if all the networks are synchronized, then the blackout cascading is very serious challenge. And if you remember, in 2012, we have faced in India also such kind of issue. And there are many other stories around the world. So by that time, the southern grid was not synchronized, and all other 4 grids were got blackout. With this is the one of the example. So the point here of this discussion is this battle of AC and DC is not yet over, and that is a major bottom line of this presentation. Initially, then this rivalry started was the existence, the war of existence, whether AC will exist or DC will exist. And somehow the DC lost the battle and AC was extended to larger extent. But in the current scenario, the situation is different. Now the war is of coexistence. We cannot ignore DC now, because in renewable sources as well as storage as well as load, there is a DC has a predominant role. So it is not advisable, or it is not efficient approach that we continue with the regular usual AC system and we convert at the source level as well as the load level, first DC to AC and then at the load level AC to DC. Why not we go directly from DC to DC, DC source to DC load? And you know that your LED light, your electric vehicle, your mobile, electronic gadgets, all electronic gadgets are DC powered. So they have a inbuilt SMPS or some kind of adapter or converter is there, which converts the incoming AC to the DC. Similarly, your storage devices sources are DC in nature. So the current situation is of coexistence, how AC DC or hybrid, that is the word hybrid we use for together, can exist. And definitely we have to give the credit to both Tesla and Edison, because nowadays you cannot imagine a day without electricity or few hours without electricity. It's very, very difficult. And that's how this concept of AC-DC hybrid microgrid. I'm not talking about the microgrid here. I expect that you all know about microgrid. It's simply a micro form of a normal grid, right? So the microgrid means it is a complete system which has resources, which may have storage also, which can interact with the main grid or utility grid, which can operate on a standalone mode also. That all the features of the microgrid. So when we have talked about the hybrid microgrid, means we have shown in the picture the top part is AC microgrid, which is having a AC bus, and at the bottom we have a DC microgrid which is operating with a DC bus, and they both have an interlinking converter in between, which can exchange the power to both the side, and it can connect with the utility LC grid also, so that it can operate in grid connected mode as well as standalone mode. You can see a dotted line of local communication is also mentioned, which is talking with the supervisory controller. So each of the device or the load or the storage have a controller. Maybe a group of converters may have a single controller or local controller, which will talk to the supervisory controller. So this is the scheme which we have developed also, and I will talk about it in the third section of my presentation in detail. Now coming to the global energy scenario. So any question related to the generic electric power system, what we have discussed? Anyone?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Sir, actually, the presentation is lagging behind, I guess. So
okay.
I'm getting your voice in real time, but the present slides I'm getting the previous slides, sir. So can something be done by the organizers? Or?
I don't think organizer can do it. My network speed is the reason actually. Maybe. So is it a long delay or it's a few seconds delay?
No, sir. It's, I'm facing long delay. Currently, I'm seeing the slide with the title electrical power system.
If it is only happening with you, then there is a network problem with you also. Maybe.
No, sir. Actually,
no, sir, for all.
Everybody it is.
So it's my network problem. Yeah. So how much delay is there? More than 1 minute?
No, the cursor is moving, but the presentation is not changing.
Sir, you are in electric power system.
What are you looking at now?
Electric
Slide number 5, sir. Slide number 5.
Slide number 5.
Electrical power system title, sir.
Oh. Okay. What about now? Is it changing fast?
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
No,
Yes, sir.
no.
What slide number you are looking at now?
Outline.
10, sir.
Slide number 10.
Yeah. Let me go with this and let me maximize it a little bit. Maybe it will help you better. So I'm moving to slide number 11. Is it okay?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I just had a small suggestion, sir. Can you please, sir, click on the icon showing the phone? Just yes, sir, that icon, sir. Yes, sir.
So are you able to see slide number 11?
Sir, it is better that you can put it in slideshow mode, so we can be able to see.
I have made it. I have made it to slideshow mode.
Right
Which
now,
slide you are looking at? 11.
also. Right now, we can see outlines also. If you go in slideshow and from current slide, if you do now, we can be able to see the slide fully, completely on the screen.
Madam, I have done it. I have done it. What are you looking at now? Is slide number 11?
Yeah, IEA Atlas of Energy. Atlas of Energy we can see.
Fine. So now can you see the word map?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So if you go to this website, I have given you the site link at the bottom. Can you follow my cursor? So
Yes, sir.
you see the website given at the bottom. I request all of you to visit this website. It is the Energy Atlas, and it's give you the lot many index on the global basis for various countries. Okay. And if I change the timeline, there has a timeline for last more than 50 years data, and since starting from 1973. So if you go from 1973 to 2018, you will get the data changing, right? Like this is the data for 5,000 trillion watt hour of global energy yield in 1973. So in 1990, now can you see the slide for 1990? So you can see the circles in the different countries size has changed. Okay. If I go further to 2003, the size of the circles will further go higher and higher, bigger and bigger. And similarly for 2018, the current data which shows 26,000 trillion watt hour, and you see that the size of the circle for the China is biggest now. Are you able to see the slide with the circles? Hello?
Yeah, we can see the circle, sir.
Okay, good. So
We can
which
see the
country
slide
has
number
the
11,
largest circle? Yeah, which country has the largest circle?
China only, sir.
China only. Very good. So that is the point of showing here the how the growth has happened over the years, right? So I'm moving to slide number 12 now. It is a table showing the various countries with their population, with their energy consumption, with their average per capita energy and per capita power. Can you see this table?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Yes, like
No, sir.
Okay. Now can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Now can you see it?
Yes,
Can
sir.
you see the slide number 12?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. So here, if you see the energy consumption is different for different countries, and their population is also different. So the major important data here is the second last column, that is the per capita energy consumption. And global basis, per capita energy consumption is around 3,000 units per person, right? And if you see, the China has more than 4,000, US has more than 12,000, India is hardly 1,100, which is much less than half of the world average also. Similarly, other countries have much higher figure as per their population. If the population is less, resources are good, then their per capita consumption is also good, right? So that is the point, that we need to increase the energy generation. I am moving to slide number 13. Here it is mentioned that fossil fuel ratio in 2018 on global basis, a scenario of the fossil fuels, is 64%, and this hydro is 16%, nuclear is 10%, and like that, right? And if you see the top 5 countries, China, US, India, Russia, they are the only top 5 countries which are actually generating more than 50% of the total energy in the world. And China is topmost, followed by US and India. India is the third largest power generation country. In terms of renewable, the second largest contributor to the global production after the fossil fuel. And this is fossil fuel is 38% and for renewable is 25%. Further, in 1990, the renewable generation grew at an average of 3.9% per annum. However, the average growth rate of the total electricity generation was hardly around 3%. So renewable energy generation is growing much faster than the overall growth of the total electricity generation. Can you tell me the reason? What is the why the renewable energy generation is more than the average of the total? Anyone? Last point. See, first reason is, can you see the slide number 13?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here it is mentioned that last bullet, that renewable generation is around 4% and total average is around 3%. The reason is it is talking about the generation. It is not talking about the capacity. So in renewable, the generation, the capacity factor is very low. Okay, if you install a 100 megawatt solar plant, it doesn't mean that it will continuously operate at 100 megawatt. First of all, in the night time there is no power. In the daytime it is variable output. Over the season it has a lot of intermittency. So the capacity factor is hardly 15 to 20%, right? So their overall generation is more. However, the total electricity generation is much less. Yeah, can you see the slide number 14 now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So here
Yes,
I have
sir.
shown the different plots for electricity generation and consumption per capita. This is also I have taken from this Atlas of Energy. So you can plot, you can customize your plots from that website. You can choose the country, you can choose the parameter, and you can compare them, right? So all of you please visit that website. Here I have compared India with other top countries or any specific case country. So generation wise, if you see the China plot is very interesting. Since 1995 or 2000, you say, rise is highly exponential, right? Compared to the other countries, like US is also rising, but not that growth, fast rate. India is also rising, but Russia, you see, it is almost stagnant. Even US is also stagnant for last almost 10 years, more than 10 years, because their population is not increasing and their demand is also stagnant. They have been using a lot of energy efficient measures, so their demand is not increasing, right? Therefore, their generation is also not increasing. So per capita consumption, you see that US has reduced basically. The top curve in the bottom plot, the US per capita consumption is decreasing, right? China is further increasing, India is slowly increasing, and Russia is also got stagnant. So now moving to the slide number 15, and here it is very interesting to see the fossil fuel share. Fossil fuel share in electricity production by Denmark is dropped very significantly since 2000. Do you know the reason why the Denmark share for fossil fuel has decreased significantly?
Wind power generation.
Yes, they have increased the wind power generation significantly, and therefore the fossil fuel share has reduced, right? And in the bottom plot, you see a very interesting curve for the France and Japan. You see the France is having 80% nuclear power generation, and in Japan, all of you know there was an incident in 2010, and after that the Japan share for nuclear is also reduced significantly. And other countries are also not more than 20%, but France is having around 80% nuclear share. And moving to the slide number 16, which is showing the share of renewables in electricity production. I am telling the slide number. So if you are not able to see that slide number, let me know. Okay. So in slide number 16, we have a share of renewables in electricity production. And here you have to carefully compare the curves with the country name. So the Denmark curve is have a different pattern compared to the others because of the wind generation, and it is showing a large increase since 2000 again to reaching up to 70% for renewable. For other curves, it is very interesting that earlier the share was larger compared to the current scenario, because earlier the amount of energy generation was also not very high, and therefore the share was more of renewables. But in recent years, the overall generation has also increased, and that's how the share has slightly reduced. Now moving to the slide number 17, and it is comparing the different countries in the first bullet regarding the consumption pattern. So again, in consumption pattern, China and US and India are the top 3 countries, and even China and US, only just these two together consume 40% of the global electricity consumption, which is significantly high, followed by India, Japan, Russia, Korea, Germany, and others. Right. So in total, top 10 consuming countries account for more than 2/3 of the global electricity consumption. These all top 10. and which is significantly high. Recently, the natural gas production has increased, especially in US and other countries. And you might have heard about the cell revolution. Cell is a kind of being exploited in US in a significant large proportion. So the natural gas consumption has become more than the coal consumption in US nowadays. There are many other countries which has a dominant in global gas production like US, Russia, Iran and others. I'm moving to the slide number 18. And this was completing the second section on global energy scenario. Any question in the global energy scenario section? Anyone?
So your last
Kindly
point about
mute
cell
your mic.
consumption, I
All of
can't
you,
hear
please mute your mic.
you properly. Sir, your last point about cell consumption or what? I can't hear you properly.
Yeah, the last slide, slide number 17, I'm showing here. It was about the natural gas consumption. In US, the proportion
Yes,
of the
sir.
natural gas consumption has become more than the coal consumption. Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
they have used their natural gas resources in recent few years in a significant manner. And there are some other countries which also have this natural gas sources, but they have not yet increased that much as US has made.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any other
Yes, sir.
question? Kindly mute your mic, Manjapa. Okay, let's move to the next slide. It is on slide number 19, Indian power system. Right. So Indian power system has shown an interesting growth over the last 70 years. And if you see the data of 1950s, which was less than 2 gigawatt installed capacity, and annual energy generation was hardly 5 billion units, per capita consumption was hardly 15 units, and transmission line was hardly few thousands of kilometers. Excuse me. And the public-private share was also interesting. And in recent year, this growth has changed significantly. And this is the data of 2015 when our installed capacity has grown beyond 300 gigawatt, and our annual energy generation has gone beyond 1000. Per capita consumption has also gone beyond 1000, and the transmission line length has gone to lakhs of kilometers, and the public-private share has also changed. Now I'm moving to the slide number 20, and here we are showing some important facts and figures. So there are two parts here. One is the power system, other is the power market. My first question is related to power market. How many of you aware about the power exchange? Have you heard about the name power exchange?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And what is power exchange? I'm talking about the power exchange as an entity, as an organization. You must have heard about the stock exchange. All of you must have known the stock exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange.
Yes, National Stock Exchange.
So have you heard about the power exchange similarly?
Yes, Power Exchange India Limited. Yes, sir.
What are those?
That are power market infrastructure, sir. Institution.
What are the name of the power exchange?
Maybe
CERC.
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 No, IEX, Indian Energy Exchange.
Very good. IEX and other one. There are two power exchange. The other is the PXIL, Power Exchange of India Limited.
Okay, sir. Yes. Sir.
What they do? Power exchange?
Transaction and power.
No. Power exchange means transaction of power. How they do that transaction of power? Any idea?
So with the allied products, I guess. I'm not sure, but with the allied products, I guess.
Anybody else?
Heard it.
Anyone else? Yes, somebody was telling the name IEX. Do you know how the power exchange operate?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, please. Right. So, see, as I assume that most of you are electrical engineer, and as an electrical engineer, we should know more about the power system, our Indian power system, and the developments which have been made in last few years. And this Indian Power Exchange and Power Exchange of India Limited, both are operating for last 12 years in India. They started in 2008. So if you go to their website, you will get a lot of information about them. What are the products they have? How do they operate? What are the rules and regulations they follow? And it's an interesting thing under the power market. So our power system peak demand is going up to now 180 gigawatt. Energy met per day is around 4 billion units. And we have around installed capacity of more than 375 gigawatt. We have thermal as a major source, right? It's still coal is dominant source, most dominant source, followed by your renewables, wind and solar. They together has gone more than 24%, and we have a significant number of transmission and network with 765 kilovolt as the most used high operational voltage, and we are also working on 1200 kilovolt. On the power market side, which has been evolved in last 10 years seriously, and at present the short-term market covers around 10% of the energy transaction of the total. So around 1300 billion units are being transacted over a year. So 130 billion units actually transacted around through the short-term market. So short-term market has two categories broadly. One is the power exchange, that is called collective, and second is called bilateral, one-to-one, right? So in power exchange, there are two power exchanges, as we know, and in bilateral, the role of power trader comes into picture. So the similarly like stock broker in stock exchange, so we have a power trader in related to power market. Now power trader is a licensed activity. You see the top bullet in the right side table is licensed traders are 43 numbers. So these numbers keep changing every year, and they have to take the license because the trading is a licensed activity. Similarly to generation and transmission and distribution. Generation is no more a licensed activity, and generation is only need a technical clearance. So only three activities are licensed activity: transmission, distribution, and in the trading. And we have huge number of market participants because it can be any open access consumer can be the market participant. It can be a captive power plant owner. It may be a distribution company, right? So there are thousands of numbers of market participants are available, right? And amount wise, the collective transaction is more, whether it is number of transactions or it is volume or it is participants. So collective or power exchange transaction is more, and which is more beneficial also because it is a common neutral platform for all kind of participants. But bilateral is a kind of over the counter contract, and it may not have transparency. So it may be a close contact which is unknown to others, and a trader may exploit the parties involved in that. Okay, so this is the picture of Indian power scenario, and can you see the slide number 21, where I'm showing you that total installed capacity is now around more than 370 gigawatt. Peak demand is just 50%, 180 gigawatt, and renewable is going to around 90 gigawatt, which is in percentage form. If you see, the coal is 55%, hydro 12.5%, diesel is less than 0.1%, nuclear is 2%, gas 7%, and renewable is around 24%. Out of 24%, solar and wind is almost equal now. 10% out of 24%, remaining 4% is from small hydro and biomass. So the power market, as I mentioned you, is around 10%. Others is called the long-term market. The power market is the short-term market. So long-term market is considering around 90% of the remaining energy transaction. Generation growth is huge, 7.5%. Annual consumption is increasing, 1300 billion units. And the public-private share is also very interesting because the private share is going 45%, which is very good for any economy. and central and state are remaining 60%, 55%, sorry. So you can see all this data from CEA reports, which is available in their website, and the data is updated for the last year. Any question here?
Sir, can you just repeat what's the figure? Market power market 10%. What does it mean, sir?
Yeah, power market actually we broadly divide the transactions in short term and long term, right? So the long term transactions are called under the power purchase agreement (PPAs), and the short term transactions are done through the power exchange or through bilateral through power traders. So if in a day, suppose you have 100 billion units in energy transaction, 90 billion units are transacted through long term contracts and 10 billion units are transacted through power exchange or bilateral. Understood?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I have a question here. If you don't
Can I ask
have
one
a
question,
question
please,
here, yeah, please.
Sir, as you have shown that the private sector share is more than near about 44%. That is a good one, sir. But I have one question that suppose the private institute they have installed their generation. So whether government has binding to purchase the power from them, or he can sell his power in the market. Are there any regulations for that, or what's about that? Means I want to get some idea about that.
See, it depends upon the type of source. First of all, right? Because you need to get a technical clearance, and if you have a renewable energy source, then it is open. First of all, it is open for the generating company. As a generating company, it is for their choice whether they go with some long-term contract or whether they go with the short-term market. Okay. Right? In case of renewable generation, they have a choice to go with the preferential tariff. And if they don't go with the preferential tariff, then they generate and feed into the grid, and they generate the renewable energy certificates. And those certificates they can trade in the power exchange.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
And the question which I was asking here is, we have a total installed capacity of more than 360 gigawatt and peak demand is 50% of it, 180 gigawatt, right? But still we have a shortage. Why? Our shortage has gone down. It is hardly around 2 to 4%, which was earlier more than 10 to 12%. But still we have a little bit shortage. But here installed capacity is double than the peak demand. But still we have a shortage.
One of the reason may be inadequate distribution infrastructure, and the second could be intermittency of this alternate energy resources, renewable mainly.
Yeah, actually there are three broad reasons. So, and it is if you go from how the power system flows, means from generation, transmission, and distribution and load. So, one reason is related to the generation, other reason is related to transmission and distribution, and third is related to the demand. So, what you have mentioned is partially true. First reason is related to the generation, and here is actually we should say that installed capacity is 370 gigawatt. It doesn't mean that 24 hours you are generating 370 gigawatt, right? It is capacity which is installed, which is not generating. So energy yield will be depending upon the operational capacity or energy generating capacity, right? So first of all, this 365 or 370 gigawatt is not always operational, especially the wind or solar. They are not available in the night time or some other time when the wind is not there. That's how our generation, actual energy generation reduces, right? Second reason is related to transmission and distribution. What is that? Anybody?
Lossage.
Right. How much?
Only 16% is getting consumed by the person if 100% is being generated.
Only 60%.
No, sir. I mean the thermal, when coal is burnt, then that data.
No. Coal burning is a part of generation. You are talking about the transmission and distribution losses, na?
Okay, sir.
So
No
how much
idea
is the
about-
transmission and distribution loss we have? Average.
No idea, sir.
Distribution loss is around 50%, sir.
Transmission and distribution, T&D losses.
I am talking about only distribution loss, sir. That is 50%. Sir.
Sir,
No, that is
that's
not
22%.
It would be around 15.
Transmission and distribution
22%.
15 to 20%, sir. I think 50 to 20%.
Sir, I think T&D loss is 22%, sir.
Right. Very good. So T&D losses in our country is around 20 to 25%, which should be in the range of 10 to 15% ideally, right? So that is another major factor which reduces whatever we actually generate. Okay, so there was first constraint is the actual generation, which is much less than the installed capacity. Then we lose 20 to 25% during the transmission distribution. And third is the peak demand, which is an official accounted figure. And we have a lot of unaccounted demand, which is not known to us. And therefore, there we have a deficit in actual demand and actual generation. Okay, any other question or should I move? Okay, so yeah, any question?
Hello, sir.
Unaccounted. Yes, sir. What can be this unaccounted demand, sir? Can you just elaborate, please?
Unaccounted demand is those who theft the power, hooking and all those things, which is not metered actually, which is unaccounted, unmetered.
All right. Okay, sir.
Yeah. So we discussed this carbon emission thing. We have a 6% carbon emission contribution with respect to the global scenario. And if you see the projection over the next few years, our generation and demand will grow in the same fashion. We will have a 50% ratio for generation and demand. Not generation, it is installed capacity and peak demand. Okay, so this is the same data which we have discussed earlier, and you can see the data is updated for 31st August 2019, and we have 225 gigawatt for the thermal only, and hydro nuclear is hardly 7 gigawatt, renewable is reaching around 87 gigawatt, and that's how the percentage wise the thermal is around 63%, and hydro is 13%, nuclear is 2%, renewable is 24%. Okay, now let's see this slide number 24, and it's an interesting values which for the last 10 years you can see the thermal has increased a lot. It has more than double in last 10 years only. However, if you see the others like hydro is almost stagnant, nuclear is almost stagnant, renewable has increased also, and it has gone to 4 times, but it has started with a very low figure. So the growth in renewable is much higher, and that's why the lower one, the green portion percentage wise is showing higher values compared to the black. So black one has reduced for the coal or thermal, sorry. Slide number 25, I'm talking about the slide number 25 now. Here we are showing
Slides are not moving.
Pardon?
Slides are not moving. We are still at 21.
Sir, slides are not showing also.
I told you that I'm telling you the slide number. Why don't you tell me that slide is not changing? Every time I'm telling you the slide number.
Yes, sir, it is problem with me, but now
With some of the participants.
Slides are not.
Slides are
Yeah, can you see the slide number 24 now?
Slides are
Yes,
not
sir.
visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, slide 24 is visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, visual, sir.
21
Yes,
is
sir.
visible, sir.
Yes, sir.
21.
24.
24
No, sir,
is visible.
24
Then
is
it is
visible.
your network problem. If somebody
yeah,
is
okay.
looking at 24, then I am also showing 24. So now I am moving to 25.
Yeah, sir,
Yes,
slides are not visible, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's 25
Yes, sir, visible.
Yes, sir, visible,
Some
sir.
participants have the problem with the network.
If you are not able to see the slide, then it is a network problem with your side.
Yes, sir. This is 25.
Okay, thank you. So this is showing you the table for region-wise installed capacity, like north, west, south, eastern on the left-hand side. Then you have a thermal, nuclear, hydro, and renewable. So the point of high interest here is that all of we know that our coal mines are in eastern part of India. But if you see the thermal power generation is not even topmost or second or third, it is the fourth one where the eastern region lies. So the maximum thermal generation is happening in the opposite western part of India. It is 85281. The second largest is the northern region 60801. Then third is your southern, and then fourth is eastern. Right. So in the total thermal, under total thermal, you see the region-wise data, and you know that thermal resources are maximum in the eastern part of India. Now, if you see the renewable generation, which is also maximum in southern part of India, quite high compared to the other parts of India, as because the wind generation is very high and even large solar plants are also being installed in the southern part of India, and which is shown in the bar chart in the below the table. Now I'm moving to the slide number 26. In slide number 26, we have a table again, which is showing the sector-wise resource distribution. And interesting data here is that the private share is maximum in the thermal and renewable. Right? You see that private data for the thermal total is significantly higher compared to the state and central, and renewable has a much higher in the private. So you were asking, somebody was asking that how the private player is being generating or selling their power. So you can imagine the amount of energy being generated by the for the renewable sources is maximum by the private player only. Nuclear is only taken by the central government. Hydro is also mostly taken by the government only. Private is very small. So the private share has increased significantly over the years. You can see from the last 10 years. And which is a good sign for any country economy. I am moving to the slide number 27, and this is showing you again a table and a bar, and here we are showing a different type of resources, right, over the last 10 years. How over the last 10 years different resources have increased their generation. So if you see from thermal, hydro, nuclear, and renewable, they have grown up and significantly high, like renewable has grown to 4 times. This is in terms of generation. Earlier I have shown in terms of installed capacity, and there is one more column for the Bhutan import. So over the years, continuously for all the 12 months, we get surplus power from the Bhutan, we purchase it, and it is they have a hydro resources, dominant hydro resources, which are being more than their own demand. Okay. Okay, now I'm showing the slide number 28, and here it is showing a very interesting data actually. In the earlier bar charts, I have shown the thermal, hydro, nuclear, and renewable all together. But in this bar chart, do you see the renewable in the bar chart? In the bar chart, do you have the renewables?
No,
No, sir. No, sir.
Can you tell the reason why it is not there?
Sir, hydro we can consider renewable.
Huh?
Hydro we can consider.
In the bar chart. In the bar chart, renewables are not shown. Why? Hello? Hello? Yes, anybody? What may be the possible reason why renewable bar chart is not shown here? This is
Due to intermittency in infrastructure.
yes, not only intermittency. See, intermittency is a small effect, But here the major effect is that renewable are not available 24 hours. That is the major problem. And all this hydro, nuclear, thermal, they can operate 24 hours in a day, right? Maybe hydro may not operate 24 hours, but nuclear and thermal can operate 24 hours. So the answer is given in the table below. So there is a table below renewable energy generation, and the achieved figure, which is shown from May 20 to May 19. If you make a difference of these two, you will get hardly 1,000 million units. 13,500 minus 12,400. So 1,000 million units are being generated by the renewable energy generation over a year. And the bar chart which is shown above, you can see nuclear is showing 10,000, which is very small. Nuclear bar height is very small, which is showing around 10,000 million units. So the 1,000 million units will be 1/10 of this height of nuclear height, right? So which is negligible here actually. So, all the participants are requested to mute their mic, please. So,
basically, it can be programmed, the renewable.
Yes, please say again.
Yeah, this renewable, it can be programmed. Basically, we can't plan it in advance. The generation.
Yeah, you are talking about the forecasting.
Yes, sir.
See, it is available. It is not that you don't know that when it will be available. You can forecast it, and nowadays the forecasting tool are very efficient and very reliable. So you have an idea, but you cannot control the input source. You cannot control the intensity of the solar radiation. You cannot control the wind speed, right? So in nuclear and thermal, you have a control of your input. So you can store the input, you can use the input as and when required. But here the input energy is beyond our control. And once your input is beyond your control, your output is also beyond your control. And so whatever available and whenever available, you just exploit it. You just generate from that. But the amount of energy, the point here is that amount of energy is much, much lesser than the even nuclear, which is nuclear. We have seen in the earlier bar chart, it was only 2%, right? But here renewable is 24%, but the generation wise, it is 1/10 of the nuclear. Okay.
Right. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Now I'm moving to slide number 29, and here is the shortage in terms of energy or in terms of peak demand is shown here, and you can see the region-wise data is given, and most of the data is in the range of 2 to 4%, right? Which is quite low compared to the previous figure. And the bottom line, it is showing the TND and ATC losses. What is ATC? Anybody? TND is transmission and distribution losses. What is AT&C losses?
Aggregate technical and commercial losses.
Yes, very good. So it is aggregated technical and commercial losses, and you can see both the losses are in the range of 20 to 25%, which is quite high. Okay, I'm moving to slide number 30. And it is showing you the previous 10-year data for this deficit part, and which is showing that earlier it was in the range of 8 to 12%. Now it has gone down to 2 to 4%. Now moving to the slide number 31. Yeah, it is showing the data for the renewable energy. I have taken it from Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, where they have classified it in terms of wind energy, wind power, solar power, ground mounted, solar power, rooftop, small hydro, biomass, waste to power, right? And you can see the wind power is still more than the solar, but the potential of solar is huge, and over the next few years only, the wind will be the second, and solar PV will be the first one, now the largest solar renewable energy source. Now moving to slide number 32, and this is an interesting figure which shows the balance of our resources and our pattern of demand. requirement over the Indian boundaries. And if you divide the Indian boundary on the eastern side and western side, two parts, so our natural resources, or you can say our coal and hydro potential were on the eastern part of India mostly, right? So coal you can transport and take it to the other part of India and use it, but hydro potential you cannot transport. So that was the major hurdle, and our other side of the India, like western part or southern part, was having major demand, and that was the challenge or unbalance between the resource and the demand. So with this shifting, with this addition of renewable sources, especially the solar and wind, the balance has come up, and now we have good amount of renewable sources on the western and southern part of India also, and that's how the balance between the demand and supply has established. Now moving to the slide number 23, and it is showing you the specific characteristics of each region. There are 5 regions for our system operation point of view in India: northern region, western region, southern region, eastern region, and northeastern region. So the northern region is called as a deficit region because its own generation is less than its own demand. So it has a snow-fed runoff river hydro. It is highly weather sensitive load. It has an adverse weather condition. Fog and dust storms are also there. In northeastern region, it is a very low load, and with a huge hydro potential. So it is a surplus region, but it has an evacuation problem of the right of way for the transmission network. So you see that Chicken Neck is mentioned here. So very small right of way is available. Then eastern region is also surplus region, and western region has highly industrial and agricultural load, along similarly to the southern grid. So northern region, western region, and southern region are 3 deficit region, and in this eastern region and the northern region are actually the surplus region. So we have talked about this. Yes, any question till here? Hello?
Sir, I have one question, sir. In the slide number 23, the percentage of generation are shown based on the coal and lignite. But lignite is I think the type of the coal. So why the separate column for lignite is given?
Data, you are talking about this lignite data?
Yeah, in the slide number 23 or 24, the percentage of generation shown based on coal and lignite also. So why the separate quantity of lignite is shown?
See, it depends upon the availability of data. If that data is available, it is shown here.
But lignite is I think that is the type of the coal.
Yes, it's a different type of coal, right?
Yeah. So why they have not merged it into the only in the coal also? Why they are shown separately, coal and lignite?
So that depends upon the kind of report from where I have taken. So sometimes the report needs that detailed information, the type of coal also. Okay. So it is not that a standard way of presenting that all type of coal should be merged. So I am not very sure from what specific report I have taken. I have searched the data from various websites, various reports, and wherever possible I have given the source also. So you may kindly visit to that report and find out what different type of classification they have done in terms of sources.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
Any other question?
Yes, sir, please. One question, sir.
Please.
Sir, in previous slide, you had just mentioned that in terms of installed capacity, renewable is having a considerable proportion. But in terms of generation, actual generation, energy generation, the proportion is very low. So could you just elaborate where are we lagging in this part, and how can it be improved?
No, see, there we are not lagging actually. It is true for all over the world. It is not for India only.
No.
When you don't have the solar radiation, how will you generate the power from solar PV?
Yeah, but in terms of installation, the installed capacity is quite high.
So if you install a 100 kilowatt or 100 megawatt plant, you will get the solar radiation only for 8 hours maximum.
Right.
There is no radiation for remaining 16 hours. So how your energy yield will be increased?
So the main reason is variability and intermittency.
Main reason is the variability.
Yes.
Variability, intermittency has a small role, but main reason is the variability, because there is a certain time when the sun will rise in that location, then solar intensity will increase, then further it will decrease, and then sun sets in the evening. So you cannot do anything in that. Now recently a new concept of one sun, one world, one grid has come, if you have heard about. And which is called OSOWOG. And that concept says that sun never sets. In the world. If you talk about the global basis, sun never sets. So there is that idea is based on that, right? But it's a still very conceptual thing. We need to work on that in a significant manner, because it is a global collaborative thing has to be done in that. So here I am talking about that. Similarly, the wind speed may not be available same throughout 24 hours. Sometimes it may be zero also, or below cutting speed. So there is a minimum cutting speed below which the turbine does not operate generate any energy. So that is beyond our control. We cannot control the wind speed.
Right. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Understood.
Any other question? Okay, let's move to this slide. Now, you might have heard about the primary sources of energy. So, can you tell what are the primary sources of energy?
Which is being consumed directly.
Huh?
Which is being consumed directly. There is no need of conversion.
No, that is not the point. Point is that the primary source of energy, which actually generates other sources which are the byproduct of that primary source, which byproduct can be used as a direct source of energy, like wind energy. Wind energy is a primary source or secondary source?
Wind is secondary source, sir.
So what is the primary of wind?
It's primary.
Wind velocity, sir.
Wind is primary. If you are using wind, if we are talking about wind energy,
So kinetic energy of wind. Kinetic energy of wind is the primary.
No. What is the source of kinetic energy of the wind?
Solar energy is the source of wind generation.
Very good. So solar energy is the biggest primary source of energy. And as an electrical engineer, we all should pray. We all should give respect to the solar, because if you know, whatever form of energy you know is basically coming from solar only, or in the formation of their cycle, solar has a major role. Without solar, their cycle is incomplete. They cannot be formed. So whether it is a fossil fuel, whether it is a wind, whether it is hydro, whether it is ocean thermal energy, whether it is a wave energy, all are byproduct of solar energy. And solar PV, solar thermal are the direct application of solar. So sun has lot of byproduct. Can you see this first bullet?
Yes, sir.
Slide number 34.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with this? The solar energy is the primary source for solar photovoltaic, solar thermal, wind energy, wave energy, ocean thermal energy, hydro, biomass, biofuel, coal, oil, natural gas. Because they might be generated in few years or a shorter period, they might be generated in hundreds of years, but solar has an important role in that cycle. Yeah. Hello. So
Yes,
what is
sir.
the next primary source after this?
Geothermal. Geothermal.
Geothermal, very good. So geothermal is the inside the earth, and it's a active decay inside the earth causes this geothermal energy, chemical reaction also. Third one is tidal energy, which
Tidal
is
energy.
because of the gravitational pull of the sun, moon and earth together. Here the effect of moon is more prominent, and that causes daily basis there will be two rise and two fall in the tide of the ocean water body. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, now coming to the next slide, and which is talking about the renewable sources. Renewable sources are basically obtained from the natural and persistent flow of energy occurring in our immediate environment, and we don't need to extract it from any device or any mined sources. However, the non-renewable sources are the mined sources which need to be extracted from their location. Okay. Right, and now coming to the potential of renewables in India, like solar potential in India is largest. Solar has a potential of 750 gigawatt, and you see there are a lot of new concepts are being used with the solar, like solar cities, solar park. Tariff has gone down to rupees, and solar water pumping system has been promoted significantly. Projects of solar has been put up over the canal. It helps a lot for reduce the water evaporation, and it keeps the module temperature also at low value. So those are the advantages. And in the right side in the map, if you see, there are different colors are used from the light yellow to dark brown color, which are showing the intensity of solar radiation in an increasing order. So it varies from 4 kilowatt hour per meter square per day to more than 6 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. Now, what is the impact of this variation of solar radiation? The impact is in terms of energy yield, the output of the solar plant in terms of energy. So if I put a 1 kilowatt plant in the northeast part of India or eastern part of India, it will generate around 4 units of electricity per day. But the same plant being installed in the western or southern part of India, where the intensity is very high, it will generate 6 units of electricity per day. So it is a rise of 50% more energy yield with the same cost of plant. So the thermal rule which is applied here is 4 units of electricity per day per kilowatt of a solar PV plant. And there are huge plants are coming up in southern part of India which are in the gigawatt scale, and which is the largest solar park in the world also. And China is also in the same race, and they are also having similar kind of solar plants. This is the wind map, and wind is the second largest potential of more than 100 gigawatt in India. But here the availability is very localized. You can see the northern and eastern part is all blue. Blue is the lowest wind speed. However, the green is little high wind speed, which is economically viable for wind power generation, and that's how the wind power plants are being located in the southern part of India right now maximum. And we have a hybrid policy for solar and wind, because wind potential is more frequently available in the night time compared to the daytime, where the solar is available in the daytime only, and that's how this hybrid policy of solar and wind being is used. So in the southern part of India is generating more than 25% of India's total potential, and the wind farms are coming in the size of gigawatt. Nowadays, single wind turbine is coming in the size of megawatt, few megawatt, and more than 100 of meter height and diameter of the rotors. So technology wise, both solar PV and wind are expanding very fast. Coming to this wave energy is a coastal energy source. So you can see it is around the coastal body of India, and again it is in the western and southern part of India. The red color and yellow color you can see. It is represented as a kilowatt per meter, where the meter is the wave width. So potential is quite low, less than 40 gigawatt, and you can see the western and southern part has a significant potential, which are generally used for the marine application, for the fisheries purpose, or the aquaculture, or for the water desalination. These are the major applications for these kind of sources. Similarly, the tidal, I am moving to the slide number 39, and it is showing the tidal range. Tidal is again the coastal source, and it is estimated in terms of tidal range. So the red color is showing 10 to 12 meter. Meter is the tidal range from minimum to maximum of the tidal height, and potential is very small. And again, it is mostly available in the western part of India, whereas in the Gujarat, it's Gulf of Khambat and Gulf of Kutch. So it's basically the technology is similar to the hydropower plant, and we have a man-made dam in between the basin and the sea side, and water body comes inside the basin and goes away from the basin through the dam and through the turbine. That's how it generates the electricity. Okay, and we have a good growth in renewables. As we have seen, we are around more than 85 gigawatt with a cumulative average growth rate of 20%. The target of renewable integration is 175 gigawatt by 2022, which is going in a good fashion. So it will increase as per the target. I'm moving to the slide number 41, and it is showing the two bar charts, pie charts. One is showing the potential wise, other is showing the potential state wise potential. So the source wise potential, if you see, the solar is having 68% and wind is having 28%, and remaining others are hardly 4%. So you can imagine the potential of solar is significantly high. And state wise, the potentials are different because they have their own location, and then location is very important from the resource point of view. Okay, and now moving to the slide number 42. It is showing a table. Can you follow me? Slide number 42.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
So slide number 42 is showing the table of renewable generation in 2017 and the target of 2022. So you can see that out of 175 gigawatt, 100 gigawatt is to be from solar, 60 gigawatt from the wind, and 10 gigawatt has to come from the biomass, and 5 from the small hydro. Okay, yeah, let me stop here because I'm moving to the from generation to demand from here, and time is also closing for this session. So I have completed almost 50% of my slides. So any question here from anyone?
Any other material than the germanium and silicon that are generally used for PV cells is available or not till now?
Which material?
Apart from the germanium and silicon, any other material is available to build the PV cell or not?
See, still the technology, the market dominant technology is based on silicon only. So we mostly the crystalline solar cell are being used in the market. That is the first generation of solar PV. Second generation is based on thin film, where in the thin film we use different other type of alloys, basically the copper, indium, gallium, selenide, all those are being used. But that technology could not succeed much because the cost and the gain in efficiency was not too much. So it's still the silicon based crystalline technology.
Okay.
Yes, any other question?
Hello, sir.
Nice boy.
Yeah, somebody was asking a question. Siddharth Kumar.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, I am asking, sir, if renewables are this much less intermittent, like you told us that only 1 megawatt or 1 gigawatt hour is being generated from renewables, and rest other 13 are being generated from conventional only. Sir, so how can we think of one solar, one sun, one grid, and one world, sir? If this has this much less power generation, sir, how can we think of such thing?
See, less is because we are generating only for 8 hours in a day.
But this will be the case in all over the world, no, sir? We will have to increase our capacity of installation only, sir.
Right. So whatever installation will be made will be in such a way that it will generate at some point of time somewhere, and that all has to be integrated. So the concept here is based on the integration it is integration in terms of not only the solar plant, it is integration in terms of the grids also. So there are a lot of concepts involved in tidal power also, where the two tidal locations are actually in such a fashion that in one side will generate the power during high tide and another side will generate the power during the low tide. So similarly, it may be sunset at one location, but it may be sun available at the other location, and that's how it is conceptualized.
Oh, okay, sir. So it will be like different countries will be combined together, but sir, different countries will definitely increase the demand of power also, sir.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other question?
Sir, are we having any wave and tidal energy generation plant in India?
We have, but size is very small because economic viability in a large scale is not very attractive. And whatever power is being generated is not able to export to the grid. They are being utilized as a standalone plant, being utilized at the coastal areas only. For marine application, for water desalination, fisheries business, other thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope we have discussed a lot many things about Indian power system, global scenario, and I have suggested you to visit those sites and get more information on that. It will help you a lot, and definitely the meeting is being recorded, so you will be able to get the information later more in a better form, and we can continue in the second session in the same slide. I will talk more about this, something about the demand side, Indian demand pattern, and how this electric vehicle renewable integration will going to impact the system. Then I will talk about in detail about the hybrid microgrid system which we have developed here and the related studies which we are doing here. Okay, so Professor Vivek, can we stop here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We can.
Okay, then we will restart at 3:30.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.